To some breaking news now. The FBI arresting a Virginia man earlier this month after finding what prosecutors describe as the largest seizure of homemade explosives in Bureau history. In court documents, prosecutors say Brad Kenneth Spafford is an extreme danger to the community, and they're trying to keep him in jail. They say he had a stockpile of more than 150 pipe bombs, with some preloaded into a wearable vest. Let's get right to our Ken Delaney. And Ken, what is Spafford charged with right now? And what else did investigators say they found?
As of now, Valerie, he's only charged with illegally possessing a short-barreled, unregistered rifle. But it seems pretty clear they're planning more charges. They were arguing to this federal judge that he should not be released on bond because he's a danger to the community, not only because they recovered that massive cache of explosives, but because he appears to be an anti-government extremist. They said that he was using pictures of President Biden for target practice, and he talked to a neighbor about bringing back political assassinations. So he appears to have some very extreme beliefs, and the federal government wants him behind bars. That's where he is right now while a judge considers the evidence, Valerie.
We know he was only recently arrested, but this investigation goes back at least a year, right?
That's right. A neighbor became interested in him when he moved to the area near Norfolk, Virginia, and noticed that he had lost some fingers and learned that it was because of his handling of homemade explosives. And that neighbor provided the tip to the FBI and also apparently recorded this person secretly. So the FBI has been watching him for a while, but they only recently got a search warrant to go to the residence, and then they found the explosives.
And Ken, what is his lawyer saying about all of this?
Well, his lawyer is pushing back strongly against the idea that he's a danger to the community. He hasn't spoken specifically to the seizures of explosives, but he's saying that the idea that this man is dangerous and an anti-government extremist is overblown and concocted, and there's no evidence of that. And initially, a judge ruled that he could be released with electronic monitoring, but the prosecutors urged that judge to reconsider, and he remains behind bars at this hour.
This morning, a stunning discovery on a Virginia farm. The FBI says it seized the largest cache of finished homemade explosives that it's ever seen. Federal investigators finding over 150 bombs on one man's property, including some that were marked lethal. The FBI now trying to figure out what he had planned as prosecutors call him an extreme danger to that community. News Nation's Alina Shirazi has the latest for us this morning. Alina, how did this guy end up on the FBI's radar in the first place? And do we know what he was planning to do with all of it?
Marky, good morning. Good to be with you. Well, we did look through those court documents, and we learned 36-year-old Brad Spafford, you can see him on your screen there. He was arrested earlier this month after 150 finished explosives, primarily pipe bombs, were found during a search of his 20-acre farm. The FBI, as you mentioned earlier, says that's the most they've ever found in the Bureau's more than 100-year history. Well, we know this investigation started after a neighbor reported Spafford's history of explosives and troubling statements. Authorities say Spafford also had an unregistered short-barrel rifle, which is what led to his arrest on a criminal complaint. Here are some of the most notable parts from the legal case. Quote, the defendant acknowledged to keeping a jar in his freezer of HMTD, an explosive material that is so unstable it can be exploded merely as a result of friction of temperature changes. Agents found this jar unsecured next to food items with handwritten labeling, making it as dangerous and do not touch. Documents also say, quote, even after losing his own fingers as a result of his homemade explosive materials, he made the apparent remarkable decision to keep an extraordinarily dangerous explosive material in the home's freezer next to food items that could be accessed by the entire family. The FBI also found a notebook in the defendant's home with extensive lists of explosives and recipes for how to make explosive materials. The explosives, we know, were discovered in a detached garage and even in a bedroom, stuffed into a backpack with a logo on it that said, "No Lives Matter." That's a reference to a far-right extremist ideology. We know the neighbor claims Spafford had lost 3 fingers, as I mentioned, in an accident while handling those homemade explosives. Spafford also alleged he expressed violent political views, even suggesting, quote, political assassinations should be brought back. They also say he expressed violent political views, as I mentioned. So we're continuing to read through those court documents to see what else is notable. He also, we know, used photographs of President Biden for target practice at a local shooting range.